here on Technique Tuesday, and we had talked about doing a table runner last week, and I was doing some searching across the internet, and I was also thinking about what yarns can I use to make this table runner so that it isn't super expensive. So I'll show you the table runner that I was looking at, and this is by Amy Stender. And it was a free pattern that I found online. And it's a very nice table runner. But when I started adding up the cost of the yarn to make this, it was going to be more expensive than what I've paid for some of my alpaca runners from Peru. So Jim, can you focus in and show them this table runner? This was a table runner, table topper that I had gotten in Peru, and it's a hand woven, actually it's probably machine woven, but it's made out of 100% baby alpaca, and it's beautiful. But when I was doing my table runner, it was going to cost about the same to knit one as it was going to that it cost me to buy that one. So anyway, here I am. So I thought, well, maybe I'll do placemats. So my first experiment was using this Barocco remix. You know, I like to try yarns before we bring them in. And I was testing this remix yarn, and it's by Barocco Yarn Company. It's called, it has 30% nylon, 27% cotton, 24% acrylic, 10% silk, and 9% linen. And it has a nice tweed look to this yarn, and you can see it right here. And it is, okay, so I'm going to lift it up for you so you can see. So this is what the yarn looks like when it was done up, and I really like the tweed look of it. It has a nice texture to it and kind of an earthy feel. And this remix yarn is all made out of recycled fibers, right, Jim? Yeah. So it's a recycled yarn. And if you look at this linen stitch placemat that I did, it is beautiful on both sides. So I wanted to take a look at this linen stitch. I got very excited about it. I'm like, linen stitch for linens. Good idea. I think I'll do a placemat out of it. And so anyway, that was the placemat that I made out of this sample yarn. And here is another sample that my friend Kim was helping me to knit, and she was trying out the remix as well. So there's one side of it, and then here's the other side of it. So you can see that it's nice on both sides. And we were also trying out these needles by Knitter's Pride, and I forget what they're called, but they're mindful needles. And this one says rejoice on it. And it's kind of a neat needle. I like how the cords have no memory in them. And I love how they have a nice lace tip. You can see the lace tip on it. And these needles were actually a joy to knit with. And they come in single needles that you can add different cable sizes to it, or they come in kits as well as you could buy. So we were testing both of those items, both the remix yarn by Barocco and then Knitter's Pride mindful needles and needle sets. So those were really nice. So I was having fun doing that. The one thing about remix is that it is just a little tiny bit expensive for doing placemats. So then I thought, well, what do we have in our store that might be wonderful to use for placemats? And I came up with this pima cotton. And the reason why I like pima cotton is not only is it a sturdy, durable yarn, but it is so completely soft that you might want to sit there and play with your placemats instead of eating your food, because it's so soft to the touch. And I love this Pima 100 by Barocco Yarn Company, because do you see how it doesn't have any shine to it? So it has a nice twist to the yarn itself, so it's sturdy, but it has no shine to it. So it is elegant looking without being shiny. Because sometimes, to me, when I see things that are shiny, sometimes I think of maybe less expensive or less desirable. So I like my yarns not to be shiny. But here is a linen stitch placemat that I have been working on, and I did it in 2 colors this time. So you can see here it's in 2 colors, and here is the other side of it.
And that's with the Pima 100?
It's Pima 100, and I'm really liking this. I'm thinking, okay, it's a little tiny bit expensive, but I have Pima cotton pajamas that I have worn for 20 years, and they still look like brand new, right, Jim?
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm thinking that if I do placemats in Pima cotton, they might last for a long time too, provided I take good care of them. And if they get any spots on them to use the stain remover or whatever, make sure they don't get stained. Yeah. So
remember how we talked about cotton isn't cotton.
Yes. So Jim wanted me to talk a little bit about, we were talking about different cottons, and there is a difference in cottons. Not all cotton is cotton. I mean, some cottons are much different than other cottons. Some have a very coarse hand to them and are not quite as squishy, soft as this Baracco Pima 100 is. And I wish you could feel it, but can you see it? It's a beautiful yarn. It has a nice twist to the yarn itself, and it's quite a pleasure to knit with. I just started this placemat this morning, and it's so beautiful on both sides. I thought that was so cool. So you could like change it up and serve your food with one side and then use the other side the next time. I don't know. I think it was pretty cool. And then on here, do you see the edges? I wanted to address and show you how to do these edges so that you too can make your edges on your placemats look beautiful. I have written up the pattern that I used, and it actually, the name of it changed a little bit, right, Jim? And this isn't, Easy Linen Stitch Placemats, and we have them on Alpaca Direct now. Yep, and so this isn't a color copy of it, but I wrote down the 2 different patterns. One had the kind of an edge to it, this edge right here, and you could see the edge. And the other one was just plain linen stitch. And so you had 2 different options of ways that you could do this. So now I wanted to talk 1 second and remind you about our drawing that we have every week. And we had for this last week was Comfort Worsted in the Halloween colorways, and I think that's what everyone voted on, and they thought that these might be good colorways. But I wanted to show you what the prize will be for this week, and you guys can help me choose. I thought maybe we could give 2 skeins of the Pima 100, either in this wine color ensemble with a kind of a neutral, or we can do it in the color that I had my placemats that I'm making, which was these fall colors with gold and green. So you guys choose wine and neutral or gold and green, and we can, you vote on that. Let us know which ones you think that the winner might like, and we can send that out in the mail. Don't forget to let us know where you're from, maybe what you're knitting. And if you are knitting something special, don't forget to include the pattern name, because we love getting ideas from you. And so that is great. And then you'll be entered to win the prize for this next week, right, Tim? Mm-hmm. So anyways, this Pima 100 is totally awesome, and it's made from Pima cotton made in Peru. So if you haven't tried Pima cotton made in Peru, it makes wonderful, wonderful placemats for sure. Now we were going to, let's take a look at the skills real quick. I wanted to just knit a little bit with you in this linen stitch pattern so you could see how easy it is and how fun. This is kind of like a TV knitting project, and I thought you might enjoy it. So let's take a look here and see what we have. So I have some knit a little bit here, and I have my harvest colors. So I have to slip, I got to see where I need to slip back to where I was knitting, because I put it all on the needle so it was flat when I was showing you. But of course I haven't, I have to go back to where my working yarn is. You say, how do I know where to go back to? And all we're going to look for is our working yarn. And that working yarn, you see how it's sticking out of that stitch? So I want to go all the way back to there, and then we can take a look at our work. So we have.
So what is it you're showing here?
This is linen stitch, and simply what linen stitch is you knit one, slip one, and then on the next row you purl one, slip one. So this one I have knit a stitch, and then I know that this is the front of my work, so I'm going to put that working yarn in the front and then slip the next stitch, and then the next stitch I'm going to knit and slip and knit and slip. And I'm going to do this all the way until I get to those last 2 stitches. And then on the last 2 stitches, I'm going to knit that stitch, and then I'm going to ask myself a question. This is my working yarn, and when I turn it in the other direction, I'm going to be purling. So instead of slipping with the yarn in front, I'm going to slip it with the yarn in back. Then I'm going to turn my work. And when you're doing the linen stitch in 2 colors, you do 2 rows in one color and then 2 rows in another color, and you go back and forth switching them, and you could see this nice slip stitch edge we're going to be doing. So on that next row, we are going to be going, we're going to purl one, and then you slip one with the yarn in back, because you want all your slip stitches on the right hand side, the right or good side of your work, right? So we had a purl one and slip one, and then we're going to purl one, and then we're going to slip one, purl one, slip one, purl one. And you see I'm moving the working yarn back and forth, changing positions as I go. So I purled one, I'm going to slip one with the yarn in back, and I'm going to purl one, and I'm going to do this all the way across my row until I get to those last 2 stitches. Okay, and then I'll show you. So we're just purling with the yarn in back, slipping with the yarn in back, and then purling one, slip, purl, slip, purl.
Christy says she likes the 2 colors.
Yeah, I do too. I love how it looks beautiful on both sides. It's so awesome. And you'll notice that when I'm working this second row, all these stitches that were green, I'm now making them gold. So if you get lost and go, which one have I done? You know you're going to slip the one that you've already worked from the previous row, and then you're going to be working that next stitch, and so on and so forth, so that when you're done, you have a whole row of the gold stitches. Isn't that cool? So we're going to slip that one and purl that one, and it takes quite a while for me to get across. Sorry about that. And then I wanted to show you how to do the edge on this side, and then you can do linen stitch in any multiple of 2. So if you wanted to make your placemats a different size, you could. They're right around 12 to 7 by 17 to 13 by 18 size for a placemat. So, and that is a standard size. When I measured my placemats, that's what they were. That's how I knew how many stitches to cast on, because I figured out how many stitches per inch and then multiplied that by how many inches I wanted, and I got my stitch count, which was cast on 70 stitches.
Megan's going to post a link to the free pattern on our website.
Oh, cool. So I'm almost to the end here, and I'm just slipping and purling, slipping, purl. And don't mind if you talk to yourself, that's totally cool. Whatever it works, however it works, so that you can remember what you're doing. So I'm at the last 2 stitches, and I'm going to purl one, and then this time, instead of putting the working yarn in back, on that next row we will be knitting, so I put the working yarn in front and turn. So now right here is what I wanted to show you. See, in the beginning I wasn't really doing that technique. I was just doing it like normal. When I would put the yarn wherever it told me to for the knit one, slip one, but by changing it so that I put the yarn so that on the next stitch I would be knitting it, you get these nice V's all the way through here. And that looks really nice, I think. I really like that. So then also when you're changing colors, so I'm done with the golden color. So I just slip that right to the back, and then I take my the green, like the harvesty color. And then I would go ahead and knit one. And then again, I'm going to be slipping with yarn in front, and then you go all the way doing that again. Do you see how it's kind of TV watching material? It's so fantastic. And so if you ever get lost and you go, oh no, what am I doing? So we know it's knit one, slip one. So if we do this in multiples of 2, so we go 2, 2, 2, 2, and then we have 1 left, I know that I'm ready to slip because we knit one, slip one, right? So then I would put my working yarn in front and slip, in front and knit. And you just keep going back and forth and alternating 2 rows for each color. And then you come up with this lovely pattern on that side. And then the other pattern that's equally pretty, I think, on the back side. And then if you slip those stitches like I showed you, instead of having something that looks kind of funky like that, you'll have it look like that. Isn't that cool? So anyways, just something for you to think of. So I really enjoyed doing the linen stitch. And you know, the linen stitch can be used for clothing, I think. But I guess the most important thing is because linen stitch tends to create a dense fabric, using a larger needle. If you were going to use it, I know on Ravelry, there's some cowls that are made out of the linen stitch that are beautiful, but you always need to make sure that you're using not only a larger needle size for fabric that you would wear on your body, but to make sure that you're choosing a suitable yarn, because if you choose a really stiff yarn and then the linen stitch tends to be a stiff fabric, you can really get something that is super structured. It would like stand up on its own, and I don't know about if it'd be a squishy cowl unless you took those precautions and, you know, use that larger needle size. But I really enjoyed doing the linen stitch. So now for this week, we had a couple questions and answers. So ideas for Christmas stockings. The Christmas stocking that I try to lead people towards for a beginning knitter, and this one is by Church Mouse. Church Mouse always does a great job on doing their stockings patterns. In general, they're easy to follow. And then if you look on the back here, this stocking actually has an afterthought heel. And I think I knitted one of these stockings in a day when I was testing out this pattern. I wanted to do a sample for the store. It was so fun. I just kept knitting along because it's a ton of stockinette stitch. So if you need a stocking pattern, we do have these for sale on Alpaca Direct, and it's by Church Mouse. Church Mouse patterns are kind of like collector's items. They're kind of like a mini little book, and the pictures are beautiful to look at. And so if you haven't tried their pattern for their stocking, I would highly recommend that. And again, I really like this Table Runner by Amy Stender. But if you could find some yarn that was reasonably priced so it wouldn't cost you 2 legs and an arm to make, that would even be more fantastic. So let me know what you think about that. And this was a free pattern that I found too that I thought it was very pretty. And then the next question was the knit right loop and knit left loop. So someone had asked, is that the same as a lifted knit one below or a lifted increase? And it is a lifted increase. On the right side, you knit, work into the stitch 1 stitch below. But when you do the KLL, we're working into the stitch 2 rows below. So that one's just a little bit different, but very similar. Yes, so if you have done that before, it should not be too hard for you to try this increase. So if you haven't seen the Technique Tuesday from last week, go ahead and take a look at that and you'll understand what I'm talking about. So that's totally fantastic. Now, you guys don't forget to vote on our Pima 100, the prize for this week. We want like the harvesty colors or the wine color. Whichever you think that we should send out to the winner for next week. They will really enjoy this Pima 100.
That wine's getting a lot of votes right now.
I know, it's very pretty, isn't it? Oh my gosh, there are so many different color options. That's what I love about knitting, picking out the yarns and putting the colors together. It's so exciting to see what they evolve into. And so I really like this color too. Yeah. So let's take a look here and see if we have a winner for this last week. Oh, it's Betty Sanford Strope. Betty, you won some of this comfort worsted, and I did my pumpkin. It was for last week. It was a pumpkin pattern, and let me see if I have the pattern in front of me still. I may or may not have it. Jim, can we have Meg post the pattern for the pumpkin for this last week? And it was a wonderful pattern that I did. I really enjoyed it. And it had some great ideas, putting wire in the stem so that it was bendable. And it was a great pattern. And a gentleman, Norm, I believe. And he did a great job.
Nimble Knits.
Yes, Nimble Knits. Mm-hmm. And so that was a free pattern from that website. So I would have you take a look at that. And congratulations, Betty. Betty Stroop, you won. So all you have to do is get in contact with customer service at Alpaca Direct. Maybe you can give us your shipping address and we can get that out in the mail today. Wouldn't that be fantastic? And this comfort worsted is a 50% superfine nylon and 50% superfine acrylic. And it made beautiful pumpkins, I thought, for table decorations for the holiday season, for Thanksgiving or Halloween's kind of almost here, so we'll see if that works.
We got a bunch of the Malabrigos so that they know.
Oh yes, we did receive a new shipment of Malabrigo, and we got it in some Rasta, some Rios, and Finito. We have some nice ones. So take a look at that. And we have been selling out of it very quickly. I sold 2 sweater quantities to one person yesterday and pulled a ton of Rasta. So if you're interested in buying those yarns, take a look at our website because they are here and they go quickly. They sell out quickly. So take a look at that. And what else? Was there anything else that I missed?
Just so they know, we got the Knit Club videos all posted.
Oh yes, all the rest of the Knit Club videos are, or most of I have like the bind off and maybe one more that I wanted to do, but they are posted so everyone can take a look at that. It's always a good idea when you're doing the Knit Club to take a look at the videos first because it gives you a heads up on a lot of things that are going on in the pattern so that you don't get stuck. I help you through those little, any little bumps in the road that a person who hasn't been familiar with the pattern, I try to help you out. So it makes your knitting experience more fun and enjoyable too, right?
And the VIP group, because that's where you're answering.
Yes, and the VIP group, there are a lot of people talking in there. So that's a free group that you can join, and it's a great place to meet other knitters in a safe way. So that's fantastic. Yes, and any questions that need to be answered can be answered there too. We have some fantastic knitters that love to help each other out. So that's great. Next week, I will be talking about the Alaska hat pattern and a technique called ladder back jacquard. And it is, if you haven't seen the Alaska hat pattern, it is fantastic and you will like this technique. So stay tuned for next Tuesday. And I hope you all have a great week and I will talk to you soon.